Joy Prime, the ultimate experience.
Thank you for staying with us. My name is Benjamin Akakwo, and this is Beyond the Headlines. We're delving into two crucial matters this morning. One has to do with the menace of nomadic herdsmen. They are across the West African sub-region. We'll be telling you about some of the most recent incidents in the central region where a 13-year-old girl was assaulted, and her father, she together with her father, were hacked with machetes. Thankfully, they survived. The police has been on that beat, but from where did we come? How did we arrive at this point? When did these nomadic herdsmen come into Ghana, and why are we facing all these challenges? We're also going to be engaging with a farmer and the DCE for North Dai, as well as our Volta regional correspondent, Ivy Setoji. On the flip side, we're going to be looking at the case of teenage pregnancy, or at least all those young girls who have got pregnant on the back of COVID-19 and being out of school. That's the second end of the conversation. But before we get into that, there's something very important I'd like to share with you. Many of you followed the banter, the accusations leveled against the multimedia group by Asin Central Member of Parliament, Kennedy Ohene Ejapon. Well, there's a response, a media release from the multimedia group, and I'll get you abreast of it. It says, Joy FM, the multimedia group, and CEO sue over false and defamatory statements. And I read, in the month of July 2021, that is specifically the 2nd, 9th, and 19th, the MP for Asin Central constituency, Kennedy Ejapon, made and repeated false and defamatory statements on his media platforms, spurning a caution issued by our lawyers on the 13th of July 2021. Joy FM, the multimedia group, and the Chief Executive Officer, Kwesi Chum, have been compelled and have taken a firm decision to afford the MP, his media organization, and 3 of his employees the opportunity to prove the allegations in court. 2 other online publications that also circulated the outright falsehoods without care or any attempt to verify the allegations against the 3 plaintiffs by republication on the 11th and 16th July 2021 have been joined as 6th and 7th defendants. The broadcasts and publications falsely sought to portray the plaintiffs as unethical, unprofessional, and criminal. The broadcasts and publications, as well as associated defamatory commentary, have been carefully and meticulously gathered and formally transcribed and translated. Our lawyers are under firm instructions to sue to clear our names. We are sure all concerned, our cherished audience, stakeholders, clients, as well as family, friends, alumni of the multimedia group, and associates of the CEO who have and continue to reach out to us, that our lawyers will today file the suit. We appreciate your patience and unrelenting support in this pursuit to vindicate our rights, reputation, and business. It is signed by the management of the multimedia group, September the 1st, 2021, which actually is today. And the hashtag is Christ at Work. And so that's the latest in respect of that development. We did say that we're going to take the matter on, and we have indeed taken it up. We shall see where the cookie crumbles. But let's quickly now segue into the conversation, this very important conversation when it comes to nomadic herdsmen. Just a bit of a historical background right before I connect with Adam Bona, who is a security analyst. These Fulani, or I try to avoid using the word Fulani, these nomadic pastoralists have supposedly been in Ghana since the 1940s, entering in the Gushegu area, interacting with the Dagombas, Mamprusis, Konkombas, and the Bimobas. And through that time, they have come to be a part of us, so to speak, though generally they are not accepted in such manner. We can also look at the Nigerian example where they were there in the 13th or 14th centuries. But why are we facing some of these problems? What are the core problems? How do we address them? That's why we're having this conversation. I'd now like to say a very good morning to Adam Bona, security analyst. Mr. Bona, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Right before we get to Adam Bona, my apologies for that. Let's take a quick look at this report.
Those
was a chance of hundreds of residents of Wusuta in the North Dai district to have hit the street to protest against activities of nomadic herdsmen in the area. Residents, who are predominantly farmers, say hundreds of acres of farms have been destroyed by the herdsmen and their marauding cattle, making them poor. The aggrieved farmers, who are threatening reprisals, want government and the Inspector General of Police to address their concerns within a week, or they will take laws into their hands. Some of them have been speaking to Joe News.
We have these cattle invasions, and in actual fact, most of our farms were destroyed. From 2017 till now, most of our farms were destroyed. Our yam farms, cassava farms, granite farms, maize farms, etc. We have tried severally to lodge complaint with authorities, but nothing has been attended or nothing has been done about it. And for that reason, we are inviting the media today to send our case far and near so that we can be heard and come to our rescue.
A report was made to the Ghana Police Service at Vakbo, of which an arrest was made. The following day, the herdsmen were arrested. They were given bail. Now, when they came back, they continued their dubious act. Now, various questions were made, of which they claim. You see, when you go to the district assembly, we have something we call the fee fixing resolution, where these rearers are supposed to pay based on the number of animals they have. And then they claim they have paid the district, therefore they have the right to do whatever that they wanted to do.
So that is a picture of some of the recent developments as far as these nomadic herdsmen are concerned. I made a case in point about the 13-year-old as well who was assaulted. Let's connect now with Ivy Setoji, who is our Volta regional correspondent. Mr. Bona, with all apologies, I crave your indulgence to just hold for me briefly. Ivy, thank you for connecting. Just paint a picture for us. What is the latest situation, snippets of which we just saw there? Farmland, threats to the female population. Paint the picture for us. Hello, Ivy, please unmute. Please unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, so we went to the farm of these farmers, and most of the farm produce were totally destroyed. Over 100 hectares of land and maize were totally destroyed by these nomadic herdsmen, and the residents are saying that the situation is becoming so bad because when they go to the farm, they are being threatened by these women, and then some of the women are also being threatened sexually harassed. So they have to go to their farms and work. And right now, workers of the farm for the best farmer of North Dai district are unable to go to the farm because the man is unable to pay them due to these activities of the nomadic herdsmen. So the situation in that particular area, Wusuta, is very, very bad. And according to the residents, if the assembly or the security service are not able to do anything about it, they will take the law into their own.
Well, that is a bit of a tricky situation there. Ivy, do hold for me. Let me cross over now to Festus, who is actually a farmer and who has actually experienced what has been going on. But maybe before I get to Festus, who is one of those who have actually experienced what is going on, let me connect with Adam Bona. Mr. Bona, now, I did mention that this core group of nomadic herdsmen arriving through Gushiegu, as we historically know, in the 1930s and 40s. In Nigeria, we have a bit of a reflection because there are about 30 million of them there. And we see in recent times some of the negative activities that have taken place and how that country is struggling to deal with the situation. Why have we got to this point? What is it that has brought us to this point where it appears we are wrangling with the nomadic herdsmen?
Well, thank you very much. And once again, we've gotten to this point. Also,
Mr. Bonner, if you could just speak up a little for us. It's a little difficult hearing what you're saying. If you could just speak up a little for us.
Can you hear me now?
Well, it is better. Please go ahead.
Is it better now?
It is slightly better. I don't know whether it's the volume on the set you're using, but the device you're using.
I think so. So is it better now?
It is better. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So we've gotten to this point because of, call it, successive government's inability to tackle this nomadic herdsmen, movement of nomadic herdsmen, and as they move into neighboring countries, especially this country, our inability or government's inability to integrate them into our Ghanaian society. It is important to realize that these people have become part of our society. Intermarriages, they are everywhere in this part of, in this country. And some of them duly have purchased some of these lands that the farmers, because then you see, this issue is a multifaceted, if you ask me. You would hear some of these nomadic herdsmen coming into a community and sometimes allegedly paying chiefs for farmlands or for lands that the pastoral lands that they could send their animals on to graze. They do that sometimes without the involvement of maybe the district security council, the municipal or the regional security council. The traditional authorities sell this land, virtually they rent them, or they rent them to these people to graze on. And at the same time, these lands also might belong to, they might have sold them or given them to some of these community members to farm on. And so these guys come on there sometimes, and you have the obvious thing of them beginning to fight with, what do you call it, the owners of these farms, and these nomadic herdsmen claiming that the land belongs to them. That is one side of the story. The other side is where you have rogue nomadic herdsmen who, graze on people's farms, destroy people's farms, and most of them are armed. They are armed coming from sometimes whichever country they are coming from with their animals. And the idea is to fight, cattle rustlers, those who steal from them. And sometimes they themselves end up becoming criminals. And so this issue should have been dealt with by ensuring that we have, a way to identify who these people are. Some time ago, we were supposed to have the ranches where these people, you don't go out of the ranch. You have a ranch where we have hay, we can produce a lot of hay to ensure that these animals don't move freely to graze. They don't move into people's farms to graze.
Right.
I know there have been some efforts in the Minister of Interior's office in the past, together with the nomadic herdsmen. Some of them, let me say, the Fulani heads, some of their leaders in this country, and the community traditional leaders, to see how this issue should be resolved. But it becomes perennial, so that once it begins to rain and farmers are farming, this thing comes up because we have not been able to integrate them well in our communities.
So a key point you mentioned there, integration, and a lot of the time you would see that if they take up arms and do some of the things they do, it has to do with apportioning land or maybe water resources, because they are nomadic herds people and they are usually moving with their cattle. But this wouldn't be the first time that such a thing is happening. It has happened time without number. It's not 10, it's not 20, it's not 30. Since the 1940s, through independence till now, we've had incidents. But to be fair, it's not been one-sided, because I also know that the Kwewu South District Assembly of Ghana at a point is alleged to have burnt down an estimated 100 homes of these, herdsmen and all of that. So it's been a two-sided sort of situation. But then, now that you mentioned the Interior Ministry and all of these bodies, where do we put the buck or pass the buck? Is it state security that has failed? Is it government following upon government that have failed? Where do we place the buck, and what should we be doing to remedy the situation beyond integration?
But what we should do to remedy the situation has to do with quickly beginning to identify who these people are. If you trace how highway robberies started, some of us have pointed to this. Some of us started talking about this probably in the last maybe 10 years, 15 years ago. That, you know what, if we don't control and we don't know who these nomadic herdsmen are, most of them are not educated. Most of them don't speak the language, any of our indigenous Ghanaian language. And therefore, they come in and they stay probably miles and miles and miles in the bush. They give birth in the bush. They erect some tents and they stay in there. And these their children are not educated. Eventually, the lands they were grazing on becomes smaller. They are armed with firearms. And they know that horse cars and market women are traveling on these streets. And therefore, if we go out there, we could rob them. If we want to deal with this, government together with state security would have to fashion our policies. And it shouldn't just be our country. I think the ECOWAS sub-region has also failed, its member states. Fortunately, we have the president of Ghana being the chairman of the ECOWAS sub-grouping. One would have expected that let's have a holistic ECOWAS policy. I know there is something like that, but that has not been a good one, because a bad policy is one that would fail miserably, as we are seeing these nomadic herdsmen and, community members, having a go at each other and killing each other, and probably we have to talk about it. And so my expectations are that the government, state security, and the nomadic herdsmen themselves and the community, so that we can have that four-pointed approach.
Right.
Bring them together. How do we identify these people? When they come into the community, who sells this land to them? Who rents this land to them? Who are they? How many nomadic herdsmen do we have in this country? How many animals or their cattle? How many groups? It's not all of them who are involved in all these things we see. And let me put on record that the vice president own wife is a Fulani. So when I hear people say, the Fulani people are bad, most of them have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. Right. But it's not all of them. Okay. There are few who are causing all this chaos we see. And so let's find a way of checking them in this country.
There are a few bad nuts, and we ought to take care of them. Very important point you make there. Two quick ones. The bit about the population, because I don't feel in Ghana, even my research didn't yield an accurate number. In Nigeria, we know there are 30 million plus. And talking about ECOWAS, the Ochehene, I'm with you for repenting, has also been making some calls on that body to ensure that this menace is curbed. But let me quickly now talk to the DCE for North Dai, Edmund Kujo Atta. He is going to be joining the conversation now. Edmund, if you can hear me, I'd like to find out from you what the District Security Council has been doing about this situation up to this point, especially considering that the local farmers say if nothing is done, they'll take the law into their own hands.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners. Indeed, this matter came to my attention somewhere in 2018 with a particular reference to a report given to me by one Tito Gabwa, who complained bitterly about the devastating effect of this cattle on his farmland, yam farm specifically. Quickly, the matter was referred to the dissect, of which I chaired, and we took some decisions, which I would be telling you in a few minutes. In fact, I wish that I have not had this phenomenon in my district. We are all aware about the devastating effects of some of these things. And so all efforts to make sure that we live in harmony is what we've all been thinking about. Unfortunately, you are able to drive them away today, and the next day you are told that they have come back.
Edmund, if you can hear me, we're losing you a bit. The sound is dipping a bit. So if you could just speak up a little for me, I'd appreciate it. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And so what happened actually was that I was informed that we have some heads of cattle moving from North Tongue then into the North Dine district. Quickly, we alerted the police. And we were told that they went to a community called Botoku. So what we decided was, who was their landowner? How many cattle were there? And then what were the activities of the shepherds, the nomadic herdsmen? These were things that we looked at. And through the investigation, we found out that one, Zipito Adai, was the one who has released the land to them.
Okay.
The next question then is, are these people legally permitted? Are they legal residents? We try to find out. Even if so, have they registered their business? With particular reference to the report, assessment was done, and then it was cost, so that there could be compensation to the farmer whose land or farm was destroyed. And that is what we did as far as that particular matter was concerned. In fact, this recent issue, in fact, that's my hometown anyway. Usuta is my hometown. And so I'm not aware that there is any distraction maybe yesterday or 2 days ago. However, if we are being told that they have come back or they are engaging in such activities, of which this means, for example, that if they are there, that is on the assumption that they are legally permitted to do their businesses, they must be ranked. They need to protect the land in which they are so that they don't traverse to somebody's farm, not even only Butuku, not only Usuta, but throughout the district. However, you realize that sometimes you do these things, and then behind the scene, they will also sneak in. And so for me, this matter already yesterday, I've discussed it with my NIB, that is formerly of BNI. We are going to hold emergency district meeting, and if truly these who are there, we'll flash them out. Unless otherwise I'm told that they have resident permit. And even if so, we'll regulate their business, their activities, their businesses. I won't sit down for these people to come and destroy people's farm. No. Yes, if we say that cattle, they are also providing some services, they provide meat for us, that does not mean that they should go and destroy somebody's farm. That's somebody's business also.
Okay.
For instance, last year, it was the first runner-up in the best yam production, that the best farmer. And so why would such a person's business be destroyed just because of somebody's personal interest? That cannot be allowed.
So you have said, you just stated categorically that you're not going to sit down for this to happen, sort of in consonance with what the people are saying, that they are also not going to take this lying down. But are you looking at remedial measures that can be accepted by all parties? Because like I said, violence has been used in the past. It did not result in the needed ends. How are you going to negotiate this? Even as the police may be stepping in, how are you, as head of the DICE, going to negotiate this between the nomadic herdsmen and the people to arrive at an amicable solution? How are you going to handle it?
First of all, I can appreciate the frustration that the victims go through. I can appreciate that. But I love negotiation. And this is where immediately I'm going to engage my people. These are my brothers and sisters. These are my fathers. I'm going to engage them quickly. One, can we actually trace the fact that some farms have been destroyed? If so, who are the victims? We are going to bring them on board. We are going to invite them to the assembly. Then we are quickly going to the community I mentioned earlier, of Botoku. Is it the case that the Zipito Adai, who has given land to these people, is it the case that they are the people causing this thing again? Or who else? We are going to also bring them on board. Then we use all the legal means, negotiation. One, if it's the case that they are not legally permitted to do what they are doing, they go back to wherever they are coming from, just as I did in the first case in 2018. If they are permitted to do whatsoever, then what are the measures? We sit down, then we discuss it. I wouldn't also advise my people that they should take the laws into their own hands. You have described it aptly. They themselves, they will take it into their own hands, which invariably means that they are aware that it's not legally permissible. And these are law-abiding people, who are people we respect laws, we respect authority, we respect order. And so I want to plead with them that I am coming down myself so that we discuss the issues and then we make sure that when our name will not be on the map for a bad reason. No, violence is not going to help us. They have shown over the years that violence is not the way forward, and this is not the time that they will have to do that. I'm pleading with them that should not be the way forward.
All right. And that is the DC pleading with his own people. Do hold the line for me. Mr. Bona, this also brings into sharp focus the land tenure system in Ghana. And we know what we do about foreigners when it comes to land, or at least people who have been here. Some of them were born here and all of that. But in terms of land ownership, it becomes problematic because of the legal recognitions involved. How do you feel we can get past this situation? Because land, where they're grazing, and water resources are a big part of this problem that we are facing. How do you feel we can address that specific issue?
I think the national security would have to be up and going. If you had the species on the other side, I mean, they are doing their best, but the truth is that since there is no land banning any, there is no law banning any native of any of these communities from selling their lands or, hiring or renting their lands to any of these nomadic herdsmen, then it's going to be, a race against time where, people, those who own these lands, would sell their lands to nomadic herdsmen. The nomadic herdsmen would go on there to graze. And these animals sometimes are uncontrollable. They break bounds and go into other people's lands to graze. And usually, those who even acquire these lands from the owners of the land, usually they get them and they in turn also lease them to those who bring this cattle in. So you have the land going through a lot of hands. And most of these nomadic herdsmen who graze, if you have met them before, even in Accra, you speak any of our indigenous languages to them, and they tell you they don't understand. And once they don't understand, how do you tell them that your animal is destroying my farmland? So it's difficult. I think that there should be a land, there should be a law banning the sale and lease of land to nomadic herdsmen without appropriate, lay down, following that probably a lay down regulation. If we don't do that, then this issue will never go away because the DCE would not be told. There is no law that says that before you sell your land or lease your land to a nomadic herdsman, you need an explicit consent from the DCE. So the chiefs are selling them at will. Call them family heads are selling them. Individuals are selling them, and they sell them to people who themselves are not even going to use them themselves. They in turn leave them into pieces to nomadic herdsmen who go onto this land to destroy. So I think that there should be a law that makes it criminal to lease your land without going through a certain regulation, a certain process to a nomadic herdsman. If we don't do that, then there's going to be a race against time. For instance, the DCE is now going to investigate because whoever might have sold this land didn't need to inform the DCE, didn't need permit from the DCE. So let's make it criminal of the sort to lease your land knowingly to a nomadic herdsman. If you do that without going through a certain maybe bylaw, without going through some of the law that criminalizes it, you yourself probably will get punished. So this should be a measure that I think might be able to curb this whole issue of nomadic herdsmen and our indigents coming at each other, and also identifying them because we don't even know how many they are. Are they properly integrated? What is their level of education? What age bracket are they? We need to know who these people are because they are creating a lot of trouble for the very good Fulani people in this country, which to me is bad. Let's identify the bad ones and punish them.
Mr. Bona, thank you for that submission. I'll wrap with Ivy Setoji on this beat. You are there in the thick of things. You've been following developments. Of course, we'll be getting the scoop from you as matters unfold. But what are your observations that you can leave us with? And if action is not taken, what do you foresee happening?
According to the students, the residents, they are actually going to take the law into their own hands. And I am very sure that is exactly what is going to happen, because when we got to the bank the last time, we saw them with cutlasses and guns. They were actually, one of them even shot. Not to scare anyone though, but for the authorities to know that this is what they may do and nothing is done about their situation as soon as possible. So yes, the situation is so bad and the authorities must go in immediately, or these people are very angry. Make something that everyone, especially in the lockdown, may need to live.
Well, it appears we've lost the feed to Ivy Setoji, but the point well made right there. We're just hoping that there will be some good resolution to this matter in Wusuta in the Volta region, with the North Dai DCE stepping into the matter, and hopefully some of the concerns that have been raised by Adam Bona will be rectified. But let me at this juncture say a very big thank you to Ivy Setoji, our Volta regional correspondent, Mr. Adam Bona, security analyst. Mr. Bona, thank you so much for joining the conversation. And also thanks to Edmond Kujo Atta, who is the DCE for the North Dai district, who joined the conversation as well. That's it for Beyond the Headlines. We bring you more on Prime Morning. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
There is only one source for your most dependable and crisp business news and updates. Tune in to Joy Prime.